Welcome to this special series recorded at Cullulleraine Music Festival. We had a chance to sit down with some incredible guests and hear their stories and the insights they've gathered in music, business, sport, and mental health. In this episode, we sit down with Vince Warnock from Chasing the Insights podcast and Business Minds magazine. We hope you enjoy this conversation. Hi, Vince. Thank you so much for joining us on the Mental Health Mallee podcast. It's great to have you here.
Oh my goodness, it's such an honour to be here. This is fun.
Yes. How's your morning been so far?
Well, I've done an ice bath. That was a shock to the system, if I'm honest. No, it was awesome fun. It was kind of one of those freaky moments. You jump in a giant pool of ice, basically. You start to freak out. You can't breathe properly. And then I'm like, okay, I had to remind myself, everybody's done this before. In fact, we just had people go in there. They've done it. If they can do it, I can do it. So I just kind of control my breathing. Then after about probably 15 seconds, I forgot I was in the thing of ice. So I was just sitting there going, So yeah, it was good fun. So now I feel very chill. It's cool.
Fantastic. So for anyone listening along at home, Vince is referring to the Cullulleraine Music Festival. So we just kicked off today on Saturday and we ran a wellness workshop this morning with Carlo Cirillo. Can you tell us a bit about who you are and what you do?
Okay, sure. Well, a long time ago. No. I'm Vince Warnock. I am the host of the Chasing the Insights podcast. I am the founder of ATG Publishing and Business Mind magazine. Almost forgot that one. Business Mind magazine as well. But yeah, basically my life has been pretty much in and out of marketing, AI, and publishing. So yeah, I've written and published 11 books. I've got my 13th, 14th, and 15th coming out this year, so I'm very excited about that. But other than that, my job is basically to help people to be seen, help them to kind of put themselves out there, especially entrepreneurs. I work a lot with them to help them to position themselves in market and be seen as the thought leaders they are.
Can you tell us a bit of, I guess, when you're working with people, some things you see, like common threads with, we were having a conversation before, imposter syndrome.
Oh, yeah, that is the most common, honestly, especially with the book side of things as well. I mean, we see it across the board with entrepreneurs. Like every entrepreneur, I don't care who you are, you deal with imposter syndrome at some point. Either that or you're a sociopath, and we don't want to deal with you of that. But on the book side of things, it's the same thing. Everyone gets like 95% through their manuscript. They get to that last 5%, and then suddenly they slow down. And that last 5% that they're writing becomes really difficult. And it's never because you don't know how to finish it off. It's never because you don't know how to close it out. It's always because they get that fear in them of going, hey, wait a minute, this has just become very real. When I put this out there, everyone's going to read this and everyone's going to be able to judge me. And yeah, imposter syndrome. I used to say imposter syndrome will whisper in your ear, but it's more like scream in your ear now. So, and actually the thing is, it doesn't matter how many books you've done as well. Like I've as I said, I got my 12th book coming up in a couple of months, and I'm already going through that imposter syndrome now of going. And ironically, the book's about imposter syndrome. So it's like, who am I to talk about this? Who am I? And I have to remind myself, actually, I'm very qualified on this. I've lived this. So yeah, but it's a very, very common trait.
As someone who has lived with this and you're seeing this, with the people you interact with, how do you manage it?
Now manage is an interesting term for this because I first discovered, I don't even think they had a name for it back when I first realized I had something that was holding me back there. But once I did realize what it is, I would always try to fight it. And this is what most people do. They go, okay, I've got this sense of imposter syndrome, this feeling that I don't belong or that I don't deserve whatever's coming up. I don't deserve accolades. I don't deserve whatever. So they try and fight that. And one of the things I had to learn was there's actually, and it's going to sound really random, nothing wrong with imposter syndrome. Seriously, when you understand what it is, and this is the thing I had to do is actually research it and find out what it is. When you understand what it is, you realize there's nothing wrong with it. The only thing that is wrong is what you choose to do with it. Because imposter syndrome is just a pile of signals from your brain. In fact, when I looked into it, I realized the brain is just trying to keep you safe. That's why you have these feelings. So your brain's going, hey, look, Vince, you're outside of your comfort zone right now. In fact, I remember I was in San Francisco. I'm on stage at this conference, and Adobe had run this big marketing event. They hand-selected 25 keynote speakers over 5 days. And I was like, this is awesome. So they contacted me and said, hey, we'd like you to speak at this conference. And I said, yeah, sure. And they said, yeah, but you have to be there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll be there. They said, yeah, we'll fly you business class, from New Zealand to San Francisco. I'm like, oh, twist my arm. Okay, I'll definitely be there. They said, we'll put you up in a 5-star hotel. I'm like, yeah. And I felt like they kept trying to convince me to come. And I'm like, I'm totally going to be there. But anyway, I got there and they asked all the keynote speakers to stand on stage. There were 25 of us there, and I'm looking and all of my heroes in marketing are there. And I'm like, whoa, hold on, I don't belong. I started feeling very, very insecure. Then they dropped the bombshell. The CEO of Adobe came out and said, look, we haven't told any of these people, but the reason we selected these 25 is they are the first intake into our program to recognize the top 50 marketers in the world. And I immediately, this is how my brain worked, I immediately went, oh, lucky bastards. Oh, man, I wish I was. And then I'm like, wait a minute, I'm on stage. I'm one of those 25. This is not right. And I looked around that room, and it actually genuinely was the most overwhelmed I think I've been on stage. I stood there and realized the 24 other people there, I've read every single one of their books. Like, I look up to every single person on that stage. I knew them all. Not one of them would know who I am, or at least I thought that. So I suddenly thought that I definitely don't belong here. I had this feeling that there was another Vince Warnock out there that Adobe meant to get on stage, and somehow they had called the wrong guy. And then to make it even funnier, one of the ushers, they were trying to get me to go to the front of the stage, but all I saw was an usher trying to get my attention. And I thought, nope, they're going to kick me off the stage. So I started trying to move in and out of some of the other speakers. So on stage, you see all these people standing there. There's me weaving in and out of all these people, trying to hide from these ushers. What I didn't realize is they wanted me to go to the front and they wanted to interview me in front of all these people. So finished that, and I thought I should be really proud of this, but I was completely overwhelmed. And the next session, funny enough, was on imposter syndrome. It was a researcher they had from the US talking about it. So I sat in that session, and at the end of that, even though I wanted to be at the rest of the day, I couldn't do it. I had to leave the conference, went to a Starbucks around the corner, and found this little kind of side area in the Starbucks where hardly anyone could see me, bought a coffee, sat there, and I just wrote all these notes about all the self-sabotage that I'd done throughout my life. And the poor girl that worked there, she came over and she goes, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm fine. I had tears streaming down my face. I'm just reevaluating my life, But it was a turning point for me, because I realized at that point that all it was my brain trying to keep me safe. And it was saying, hey, Vince, you are way out of your comfort zone right now. And the irony of that is that's where I'm supposed to be. Like, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a business owner. You exist outside of your comfort zone. There is no comfort zone. You're making it up as you go along, and that's absolutely fine. That's what you're supposed to do. So there was this kind of tension in me of going, well, I feel like I don't belong because I'm out of my comfort zone, but at the same time, I know that I'm not supposed to be in my comfort zone. And that's when I learned about actually you get to choose what to do with those feelings and those thoughts. And those thoughts are just signals going, hey, this is an indication you're out of your comfort zone. So I had to reprogram my brain to say, when you're feeling this, when it's screaming at you, that's just your brain going, hey, Vince, guess what? You're exactly where you're supposed to be right now. So that was a huge breakthrough for me, and I totally cured all imposter syndrome. No, I'm joking. I still had to learn techniques and things like that to deal with it and stuff. So, but yeah, it really was a turning point to understand that. And that's why I help a lot of these authors with it as well, is one of the first things they need to know is you're not alone. Like, seriously, every author goes through it. I was talking to Seth Godin, who's one of my legends in marketing, This guy wrote pretty much the Bible for marketing with Purple Cow and all these books. And yeah, he was telling me about, I've got a new book coming out, Vince. Imposter syndrome's kicking in. My brain's going, what right do you have to write a book? I'm like, are you kidding me? You're Seth Godin. That's your right. Like, this doesn't make sense to my brain. So yeah, it's kind of crazy.
That's awesome. It's I guess everyone seems to experience that on some degree. And it's how we perceive it to be, and being okay, like accepting that, you know what, it's okay to actually experience that sometimes. And it's an indication of growth in a way, like when you're outside of your comfort zone.
Yeah. It's an equalizer as well. This is the thing. I mean, one of my first ever experiences of it was when I was quite young. I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. I wasn't quite an entrepreneur at this stage, but I won a tickets to a business breakfast. And background on me, by the way, I grew up in a really abusive and real poverty-stricken home. Right? We had nothing. So I had finally left home, and I was studying to be, at the time, an electronics engineer. And again, no money. I was broke. I was a student. I spent all my money on alcohol and comics, So I was like, right. But I got tickets to this business breakfast, and I'm like, man, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to go, and the speaker's going to inspire me. He's going to give me everything I need, And I realized, thinking about it, everyone's going to be there in suits, and I don't own a suit. So went down to a thrift shop, an op shop, and found the cheapest suit I could find. This thing was horrendous, by the way. It was shiny silver, right, but double-breasted, which I do not suit, and everything was too long. It went right down to my lower knuckles, the sleeves, and then I was like, this is disgusting. And by the way, back then I had long hair. I actually had hair. I had long hair tied up in a ponytail. Honestly, it was a joke. But I turned up to this thing and I thought, I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn from this experience. Walked in there. The minute I walked in there, I realized I don't fit in. Everyone there, now, in my mind, everyone there was wearing Armani. Like, they all looked, dressed to the T's. They looked amazing and everything. They probably weren't, but that was my interpretation based on what I was wearing. And all these people just seemed to have their life sorted, seemed to everything. They sat there and they all knew each other and everything. And I felt like a complete outsider. So I'm sitting there, I thought, I'm going to make the most of this. There's free food. I'm going to eat everything. There's free coffee. I'm going to drink everything. And I'm going to learn from this guy. And it was an amazing session. It was awesome. So he finished off the session and he started going around the tables. He said, look, I'm going to come around. If you've got any questions, ask them of me. And I can remember the internal dialogue in my brain. My brain's going, okay, Vince, you've got one shot, man. Ask a really intelligent question. If you want to fit in here, you're going to have to ask something really, really good. And I'm in my brain, I'm going, okay, I've got this. I look up and realize he's at our table and he just goes, oh, any questions? And before I could even think about it, out of my voice just came, at what point did you know you'd made it? And my brain literally just went, dude, seriously, you had one shot. And I looked around the table and all these people that I was there with, they kind of, well, in my interpretation is they rolled their eyes. It looked like they were like, oh, dumb question, but that might be just me projecting. But I felt pretty stupid, and I wanted to run out of that room. I wanted to cry. I wanted to, I just felt terrible. And he surprised me. He turned around. He said, actually, that is a very good question. And I went, what? I was more surprised than anyone. And he said, look, Vince, I'm going to let you in on a secret. I'm going to let you know my daily routine. Now, I'd heard every entrepreneur talks about their daily routine. This is like the secret to success, apparently. It really isn't, but but this daily routine. So I thought, I'm going to write down everything comes out of his mouth. So he says to me, right, every morning I get up deliberately early. And I was like, interesting wording, deliberately early. I'll write that down. He goes, I get up, I get out of bed, I don't check my messages or anything. I go straight to the bathroom, fill the sink with cold water. So I'm like, right, bathroom, cold. He doesn't go to the kitchen. Interesting. Bathroom, cold water. And then I thought to myself, should I ask him the temperature? No, I'll just write down cold water. He goes, I splash that water on my face. I look in the mirror and I go, today's the day they find out you're a fraud. And I went, what? And he goes, yeah, man. He said, I never feel like I've made it. I always feel like an imposter. He said, and then he did something interesting. He indicated around the whole table and he said, everyone here does. And that shifted something in my brain because I looked around that table, I saw everyone else there that I just felt really inferior to, really insecure around, and I realized they were all nodding. And I realized I've got as much right to be here as any of them. Like, we all feel the exact same thing. It genuinely made a big impact on my life. So those are the kind of pivotal moments there. And if I can help other people to understand that, and with my clients, it really is about telling them those stories. It's about being there for them, encouraging them, and we do a lot of testing of their books, put it out there with audiences to get feedback. And once they start realizing they've written a damn good book, it's so empowering.
That's so empowering. I feel like there's so much crossover here as well, like at Cullulleraine Music Festival, how we've got different bands, different artists, a lot of different creatives, practitioners.
Yep.
And like those messages, I guess, like what would be some advice, I guess, you could share with someone?
Oh my goodness. Just like, I was going to say, just get up on stage and sing. Nah.
Do it.
Mainly because that's what I want to do. Nah. Look, creatives are always dealing with imposter syndrome, and you see it a lot. Mental health in the creative arts industry is it has a long way to go. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. And a lot of that's because of comparison. And a lot of that's because everybody looks at everybody else and goes, oh man, like I did in that room, you've got it all together. I'm a hot mess. I don't belong here. And for musicians, they often feel that as well because they see the success of other bands and other artists and things like that. And they go, oh man, I don't have that. So therefore I'm not that good. The problem with that is you're only actually observing the external of that person. Like, most of the time, and this is the thing, the beauty of that award that I won, with Adobe, was I got to go to dinner with all these people, all my heroes. So I'm buzzing, right? I'm just like, I'm going to absorb everything here. By the way, I also found out Americans are terrible at drinking. Like, they all drink light beer. So when they were drinking whiskey with me, they just started opening up about their lives really easily. And the first thing I learned was they're all a hot mess. All of these legends, they're as much of a mess as I am. They're as insecure as I am. They're as worrying as I am. They're as anxiety-ridden as I am. So that same thing applies here. And I realized I am judging them not based on them. I'm judging them based on my perception of them. And often that means I'm holding myself to a standard that doesn't even exist. I'm looking going, I need to be like these people, or I want to be as successful as that, not realizing that they don't feel that. They don't feel successful. They don't feel like they've got it all together. So it's much better to just try and understand who you are. And I mean, we use this term way too much, but be authentic. Like, seriously, just be yourself. So, yeah.
Absolutely. What are your values and what's authenticity to you?
My values go right the way back to when I was a child. My core values. So most of my business, I have 7 different businesses. They're all based on core values. Each of them slightly different, but there are some base ones that are across the board. And I weirdly only realized this about a couple of years ago when I suddenly had an epiphany of what ties all these businesses together. And that was the fact that when you grow up in an abusive home, you don't have a voice. Because if you spoke out or if you made yourself seen, and by the way, I'm a highly extroverted, very loud, talk all the time, talk 100 mile an hour person, but when that's taken away from you as a child, because if you speak up, you get beaten, then you don't have a voice. And it wasn't till age 11, actually, I went to what we call intermediate school back in New Zealand, and we had a teacher there, Mr. Few, one of the most impactful, amazing, inspiring teachers I've ever had in my life. He had such a profound impact on so many young people's lives. We got to tell him before he passed away. Actually, it was really powerful. But he believed in me, and he pushed me out of my comfort zone majorly. He got me to do public speaking. In fact, he got me up in front of the whole class. I had to do this public speaking thing, and it was amazing. Everything just flowed, and I was in the zone. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm loving this. I'm making everyone laugh. I'm making them gasp. I'm making them, oh, this is amazing. It was like pulling strings and treating everyone like they were a puppet. It was amazing. We finished that, and he grabbed me, and not in a bad way, but he grabbed me, and he said, Vince, that was amazing. He said, do you realize you can do something significant with your life? And internally, I'm going, no, I didn't realize this. But I also had this weird bubbly feeling, and I was like, I don't know what this is. And I realized it was hope. And he taught me that I didn't need to be, I didn't need to be a product of my childhood. I didn't need to be defined by that, or I could write my own story. But he also gave me a voice. And that was the moment I realized, A, this is super important to me, but B, I want other people to have a voice as well. So every one of my businesses is designed around helping people find their voice, whether that's through being a published author, whether that's being on my show, whether that's being in my magazine. I'm giving them a voice, I'm amplifying their voice, I'm helping them to work out what their voice is, all of those kind of things. So my core value there is that everybody deserves a voice and everybody deserves to be seen.
Thank you for sharing. It's so many good topics we've touched on so far in the podcast.
We could talk for hours.
We could talk for hours, and I would actually love to keep talking to you as well.
Yeah.
So it is the Mental Health Mallee Podcast.
Yeah.
Could you share, what is mental health for you? What are some things that you do to improve your mental well-being?
One of the biggest things I do for mental health is, two of the things actually. One of them is surround myself with amazing people. And this is, you have to do this. And because one of the things, especially being an entrepreneur, is it is incredibly lonely. A lot of entrepreneurs, even though they're surrounded by amazing people, can feel very isolated and very alone because they often carry the pressure of their businesses or business, and they can't share that with their employees, obviously, because you want to keep them positive. It's like, you don't realize it's a mess over here, you keep it positive. And sometimes sharing with family and friends is difficult as well because you want to put on that brave face, you want to feel confident. So there's a lot of those masks that we put on, and as a result, you internalize everything, and that makes you feel very isolated and alone. But you have to be open. Surround yourself with people you can just be yourself around, right? Get mentors, get coaches, whatever that is, but find your peer group. Find people that understand what you're going through. It'll help you so much. And then the second thing for me for mental health is researching. So I have ADHD. That made life very difficult as a child, made life very difficult, especially in corporate. We were talking before, corporate, I just do not fit in, honestly. I go crazy with, wait, you want me to do it that way? No, I'll find my own way of doing this, it just doesn't work for me. And I genuinely struggle with those kind of things. So for me, one of the things I do is I research ADHD. And this has had a profound impact because I'll have days where We call it low dopamine days, where your dopamine levels drop off, which is a symptom of ADHD, and you can't do anything. Like the thought of getting up and doing work, no. Or starting something is like, no. And most people, especially when you're a kid, they always said the same thing, which is try harder, work harder, come on, push yourself, push, you can get through it. But actually that has the reverse effect, because the moment you try harder or try to push yourself, you actually reduce your dopamine further and you end up on the couch not being able to get up. You're like, okay. Now, I used to feel a huge amount of shame and guilt around that. When I couldn't do something, I felt terrible. And I would go into the spiral, depression and everything, and anxiety. But actually learning what that is and learning about it helped me to go, hang on a minute, this is something people deal with all the time. This is quite normal. And I have to give myself the grace to go, you know what? I'm having a low dopamine day. That's A-okay, right? I always have buffer days in my week where I can reschedule things if I need to. I just pass it on to my team and go, low dopamine. They go, yep, not a problem. Reschedule everything for the next day. And that way I can look after myself and I can kind of prioritize myself there. So that to me is how I deal with mental health. But mental health is just being authentic and trying to understand how you're wired, essentially.
It's so interesting. There's like this perspective of if, you know, you're 100%, even if you're running at 20% that day, that is your 100%.
Exactly.
And it's okay.
Yeah, and it's A-okay. Yeah, and it's, I mean, there's lots of cheesy sayings we say in mental health and things like it's okay to not be okay and things, but it's actually true. Mm-hmm. It really is. When you understand that it's okay to feel these things that other people do all the time, that gives you a huge amount of permission to actually deal with it, you know?
Absolutely. It's been so great having you on the podcast.
Oh, it's been so much fun. I love this conversation. Yeah.
And if is there anything else that you'd like to share?
No, just, look, you know, when I said before, everyone deserves a voice. I genuinely do believe everyone has a voice and everyone has a story as well. And one of the first objections I always find with people when they go, oh, I don't know if I can write a book is my story's not that interesting. I say, you're 100% wrong. Everybody has something to add. Everyone has value in this world. And everyone should be out there talking about it, because there are, and this is the thing I had to realize is, and this is where I was talking to Seth Godin again, just a name drop, you know, as I do. Seth Godin. It was quite interesting because I was feeling really insecure. My first book was coming out at that time. And he turned around to me and he said something, because I said, oh, you know, obviously I'm not you. And he goes, oh, stop that. I went, what? And he goes, listen, he goes, you and I could write on the exact same topic, Vince. Right, and we could both put a book out there, and yeah, I'm more well known, so therefore, you know, it'll probably sell a lot more than yours. Just being blunt, I went, yep, I agree with you. And he goes, but there'll be people that read my book and go, oh, okay, that makes sense, and there'll be others that read it and go, yeah, okay, that was good, but then they'll read your book and go, oh, now I get it, and the reason they get it is because those are your people. Those are the people that when you share your story, when you tell your experiences and that, they go, wow, this guy just gets me. They understand me. And for everyone listening to this, there are people out there that genuinely are waiting for you to show up, genuinely waiting for you to tell your story, because that will help them to be seen, where they go, oh, wow, somebody else is just like me. I'm not broken. I'm not different. I'm just, you know, I'm just me. So, yeah, so tell your story.
Thank you. And where can people go to find out more about the work
Oh,
you do?
I make it so difficult. No, I'm joking. They just can go to chasingtheinsights.com. It's the home of my podcast, my books, and everything you want is linked to on there. And also my links to social media as well. Just reach out and connect with me. I love meeting new people. Unless you're a spammer, don't like talking to spammers. But if you're just a normal human being, then yeah, definitely have a conversation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast today,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Mental Health Mallee Podcast. The Cullulleraine Music Festival series was supported by the Victorian Government through regional events funding. Be sure to head over to our website for more resources and social media pages to connect in. Bye for now.